My life shattered in darkness, but I discovered an unbelievable plan amidst the pain. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day where the sky seemed heavier than usual, pressing down on my shoulders. My heart raced as I stood by the window, watching droplets race each other down the glass. All I felt was numbness, like a chilling echo of a past I couldn't escape. That I was trapped in the chaos of emotions. My dad's voice rang in my head, echoing the words he had said just the night before. "We're out of options, Claire. I can't save us anymore." His trembling hands, usually strong and firm, now showed the cracks of despair. I never thought a financial crisis could eat away at a family so quickly. One moment we were okay, the next, it felt like everything had been snatched away. My mom was sitting in the living room, lost in her thoughts, tears pooling in her eyes but never falling. The silence hung there like a fog, wrapping around us tightly. It felt wrong. It felt unbearable. I wanted to scream, to shake her out of it, but the lump in my throat stopped me. I thought about how we used to sit together and laugh, her warm smile lighting up the room. Now, those images were shadows lurking behind my closed eyelids. Friends had drifted away, perhaps too uncomfortable to face our crumbling world. I could see their pity when they looked at me in school. "I'm sorry," they said, their voices heavy, like the falling rain outside. But it didn't help. No one truly knew what it felt like to have the ground ripped from beneath you. As the days passed, I stumbled onto a peculiar blog while nervously scrolling one night. The words leapt off the screen: urgent, secret, plan. My breath hitched as I read, my fingers trembling. A way to change everything, a method cloaked in mystery and danger. I couldn't look away. I didn't know why, but it sparked something within me, a flicker of hope amidst the unrelenting darkness. Could this be my answer? The thought made my heart race, and fear twisted in my belly, but the more I read, the more questions piled up. Who wrote this? Was it real, or just another empty promise? My mind swirled. I needed to know more. I had nothing to lose, yet everything to gain. Suddenly, the storm outside grew fiercer, like it was responding to my turmoil. Thunder echoed in the distance, shaking the glass frames in my house. My heart raced, and with it came the urgent realization: this plan could either be my salvation or lead me deeper into darkness. I was standing at a crossroads, and the weight of that choice hung heavy in the air. I took a breath, the silence around me thick and suffocating. It felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting for my next move. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The storm raged on, each gust of wind rattling against the panes like a chorus of turmoil. I sat on the edge of my bed, the glow of my phone illuminating the walls that felt more like a prison than a sanctuary. My heart thudded in rhythm with the distant thunder, drowning out the echoes of despair that had taken refuge in my mind. I had stumbled upon something that could potentially reshape my life, yet a shroud of apprehension loomed over me. What if this so-called plan was simply a mirage, another cruel twist in the narrative of my heartbreak? I stared at the screen, desperately trying to glean more from the cryptic messages that spilled forth. Alchemy of the unseen, they called it. Invisibility in plain sight. I felt as though I was standing on the precipice of something extraordinary and terrifying. My fingers moved hesitantly over the screen, hovering over the links that promised enlightenment but could just as easily lead to greater despair. What would Dad say? Would he scorn me for dabbling in such ridiculous ideas, or would he see my frantic search for hope as a sign of resilience? I pressed my palms into my thighs, grounding myself against the electrifying pull of uncertainty. With my family clinging to the last shreds of stability, I needed to tread carefully. As I sat there in the darkness, something stirred in my chest, a yearning not just for hope but for connection. I wanted to reach out to someone who could understand, who would listen without judgment. My thoughts immediately flitted to Mia, my childhood friend, whose laughter used to fill the corners of my emptiness. We had grown distant, but perhaps in her, I could find a semblance of belonging amidst my spiraling fears. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over her name in my contacts. What if she didn't want to hear from me? What if this chaos had driven her away too? But, then again, my heart whispered that vulnerability might be the very thing I needed right now. With a determined breath, I texted her, pouring out my worries and the flickering flame of my newfound discovery. After I hit send, I stared at the screen, waiting, dread pooling in my stomach. The storm continued to wail outside, mirroring my anxious pulse. Suddenly, my phone buzzed, and my heart nearly leapt out of my chest. Mia had responded, "Claire. Of course, I miss you. Are you okay?" A warmth spread through me, a tiny light against the drabness surrounding my mind. I quickly typed back, spilling my heart, tears streaming down my face as I relayed our family's struggles, my frustrations, and the tantalizing glimpse of hope I had found in that blog. There was something liberating about sharing my fear, and although I didn't expect answers from her, the act alone made me feel less alone. The response came faster than I anticipated. "I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm here for you. Let's meet tomorrow." A jolt of gratitude coursed through me. I felt a flicker of hope igniting deep within like a small but determined flame. Yes, I needed this connection, and maybe, just maybe, it could fortify me against the tempest of life's challenges. The next day dawned grim, but my heart blossomed with anticipation. While I prepared to meet Mia, the emotional weight of my decisions danced in my chest. Would I share the plan I had uncovered? I had spent the night scrutinizing every line of that blog, wrapped in an unsettling blend of fascination and dread. What sense would it make to burden my friend with such abstract ambitions while I still stood amidst the wreckage of my life? When the moment finally arrived, and I saw Mia in the cafe where we used to spend countless afternoons, a part of me ached for the past, for the innocence of untroubled laughter. But as she walked in, her eyes searching mine, her concern etched deep across her features, I knew I had to share the truth, though my heart raced at the thought. We sat in a corner cozy with the scent of coffee and warm pastry, and I began to pour out everything: the chaos at home, the emptiness, the spark of hope, and the wild idea I had stumbled upon. I was terrified of her reaction, but the way she listened intently, nodding with understanding, made me feel seen, validating my turmoil. "That I can't promise it will work, Claire. But I believe in you," she said thoughtfully, her warm hand enveloping mine across the table. "And no matter what you decide, let's face it together. You're not alone in this." Her kindness felt like sunlight breaking through the clouds, tender but bright enough to chase away the darkness, if only for a moment. Yet, a fragile peace lingered because I sensed the storm brewing within me wasn't calmed, it was merely waiting to pounce. As we sat, the warmth of her presence anchoring me, I noticed a figure lurking just outside the cafe, his face partly obscured by a hood. The moment I caught his eyes, a chilling recognition seized me. It was a boy from school, one who had whispered cruel taunts and provoked my fears. My heartbeat faltered, an icy hand gripping my throat as our gazes locked, the weight of unknown intent heavy in the air. Before I could process what was happening, he turned and melted away into the thrumming crowd, leaving behind an elusive tension and fresh uncertainty. My heart raced, and the fleeting moment of solace with Mia shattered like fragile glass against that reality. I needed to know what he wanted, but deep within, an inkling of dread warned me that whatever was coming could bring new upheaval, a new layer to the chaos I thought I was trying to escape. The following days blurred together, a cacophony of emotional highs and crippling lows. Mia and I spent every afternoon in the cafe, cocooned in the warmth of our renewed friendship, yet the fleeting moments of joy were strained in the back of my mind by that boy's sudden appearance. Each time I stepped outside, I felt as though a storm was brewing, a palpable tension thick in the air. Had he been watching? Waiting? Mia noticed my distracted demeanor, gently probing but never prying. One evening, as the waning light spilled golden across the cafe's window, she leaned in closer, her concern palpable. "You know you don't have to carry everything alone, right?" I swallowed hard, wrestling internally with the urge to divulge my fears. The unease I felt about the boy's appearance gnawed at my insides, but I hesitated to let my anxieties unravel in front of her. "To appreciate that. It's just. I thought I was starting to find my footing again." "You are," she said, squeezing my hand tightly across the table, "but don't ignore what's bothering you." I nodded, yet the storm inside me churned relentlessly. I didn't want to overwhelm her with the shadows that lingered in my mind, with that quiet but persistent voice that whispered tales of despair. As the week wore on, nights became especially difficult. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the encounter with the boy over and over. Each sound, every creak in the house, set my heart racing, and I began to feel like I was caught in a game of hide-and-seek, forever searching for something I couldn't quite grasp. Despite Mia's unwavering support, it was hard to shake the feeling of imminent danger. I felt unmoored, adrift in an ocean of uncertainty, clinging tightly to hope though it felt as fragile as glass. One afternoon, we were at the cafe, and Mia pulled a small envelope from her bag, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Open it," she prompted. I looked at her quizzically, and she added, "I thought you could use a little distraction." I carefully opened the envelope to reveal tickets to a local art fair, a place we used to visit together before everything changed. "Mia, these are amazing. I can't believe you thought of this. I thought it might be nice to lose ourselves amidst the colors and creativity." "Just for a little while," she said, her smile infectious. As the day of the art fair approached, I felt the faint stirrings of excitement blossom within me, yet a nagging voice still echoed in my mind. What if the boy returned? I felt the weight of my fears, both familiar and foreign, melding together in a way that made it hard to breathe. The day arrived, and I tried to shake my worries, burying them under layers of anticipation and a vibrant sweater Mia had coaxed me into wearing. The day was surprisingly sunny, the air tinged with the scent of spring flowers bursting through the winter's frost. Mia's enthusiasm was contagious as we strolled through the myriad of booths, each one showcasing the stunning works of local artists. I found myself getting lost in the colors, the swirl of blossoms and deep hues capturing my imagination. It felt like stepping into a dream, one that provided both beauty and a temporary reprieve from the chaos, but as I immersed myself, my gaze flitted through the crowds, my heart clenching with dread every time I sensed a familiar figure lurking in the corners of my vision. It was irrational, I knew that. Yet, the elegance of the day began to tarnish as unease wrapped around me like an unwelcome embrace. As we laughed and strolled, a sudden noise pierced the vibrant air, a loud crash followed by shouts. My heart lurched, and I turned quickly to see what was happening. A commotion had erupted at a nearby booth, where an artist was frantically trying to salvage a fallen sculpture. The crowd drew closer, whispering in hushed tones, but at the edge of my vision, there he was, the boy, lurking just beyond the perimeter of the gathering. My breath caught in my throat as I made eye contact with him again. He hadn't vanished, he was here, watching. My mind raced, and my heart thundered. In my ears, drowning out the chatter of the crowd, "Claire?" Mia's voice broke through my haze of panic, concern shadowing her features as she followed my gaze. "What's wrong?" Before I could respond, the boy stepped forward, his face now clearer in the sunlit crowd. His expression was unreadable, but a cold, chilling sense of confrontation simmered in the air. There was something in his posture that commanded attention, something both alluring and frightening, and I felt frozen in place as the voices around me faded into silence, and then, in a moment so charged it felt like a bolt of lightning had struck, he locked eyes with me and mouthed the words, "I need to talk to you." My heart dropped, a wave of dread washing over me. I could feel Mia's hand tighten around mine as she processed the fear in my sudden stillness. I had been so desperate to move away from despair, yet here it was again, crashing into my reality. What did he want? What could he possibly have to say to me now, amidst all the turmoil I was trying to escape? "Claire," Mia began, but I was already taking a step back, every instinct screaming at me to run. I turned toward the scent of paint and the lush colors of art, but there was an insistent pull tethering me to the boy's gaze. A dark promise hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. As adrenaline coursed through my veins, I realized I was trapped not just in this moment, but in the web of my own fears. The chaos that lurked beyond the art fair felt imminent and tangible, and I couldn't escape the feeling that my life was spiraling out of control, spiraling into darkness once again. The sunlight grew dimmer as the day wore on, shadows creeping across the vibrant displays like an omen. My heart raced, a frantic flutter that betrayed my effort to appear calm. Mia's grip tightened around my wrist, anchoring me just enough to keep the burgeoning panic at bay. "We should go," she whispered urgently, but something held me rooted to the spot. The boy stood there, a specter in the crowds of color and light, and the weight of his presence was suffocating. I felt torn between the instinct to flee and an inexplicable curiosity, a yearning for answers that both terrified and intrigued me. What could he possibly need to say? Did he know how close I had come to losing myself in the darkness last time? Before I could form a coherent response, he took a step closer, his features softening in the dimming light, the tension between us palpable. I could hear the melodic murmur of the gathering crowd, the haunting laughter of children, but all that seemed frozen in time as he engaged me with a steady gaze. "You don't understand," he said, his voice steady yet laced with urgency. "You have to listen." Every instinct screamed at me to hide, to turn away and disappear into the sprawling sea of art and humanity around us. But instead, I felt a strange compulsion to hear him out, as if some part of me was still tethered to the shadow of our shared past. "What do you want?" I finally managed, the words escaping my lips before I could turn back. "That I came here to protect you," he insisted. Mia's facade of calm shattered. "Protect her? From what?" Her voice broke under the weight of disbelief, but I quickly glanced at her, willing her to stay back to let this unfold however it needed to. "Please," he pleaded, his expression shifting. "They're coming for you." I didn't want this, but I had no choice. "You need to know the truth." "About what?" I asked, my tone sharp as I tried to mask the trembling in my voice. My pulse echoed in my ears, melding with the tension in the air. He hesitated, and for a fleeting moment, I thought he might back away. I could feel Mia's intolerance bubble over, but the glimmer of curiosity within me struggled against the rising tide of dread. This isn't what you think it is. You've been targeted for a reason, Claire," he said, soft yet urgent. "You have powers. Gifts." The word hung between us, full of implication and fraught with possibilities that felt absurd in their enormity. I forced a laugh, the sound shaky. "You think I'm special? You think I have powers?" His earnestness cut through my sarcasm. "Don't dismiss it. It's hard to explain, but there are those who want to exploit you. Exploit what you can do." Mia stepped forward, her faith in me unwavering. "What do you mean? Powers to do what? If this is some kind of joke, it's not." He interrupted sharply, frustration igniting in his eyes. "I was sent to find you before it's too late. You need to trust me." Trust. The very concept felt loaded with complications and heartbreak. I wanted to dismiss him outright, but part of me was captivated by the uncertainty that lay beneath his words. I recalled the dreams that sometimes plagued my sleep, moments where I felt disconnected yet powerful, the strange energy pulsing through me when emotions ran high. The crowds around us buzzed with excitement, oblivious to the storm brewing at the edge of their revelry. Artworks glittered, laughter vibrated against the canvas of human connection, yet I stood frozen in a whirlwind of dissonance. "Regardless of what you're saying, my life is already defined by chaos," I said, my voice steady despite the tumult rising within. "The darkness is something I've fought against every day since it dragged me down. I can't afford to believe in something so far-fetched or not. They are watching you," he insisted, stepping closer still, his breath a whisper on the wind between us. "And the longer you deny who you are, the more danger you're putting yourself in." That moment, an unsettling shift occurred. A chill slid down my spine as the air crackled with unspoken tension. I turned partially, scanning the fairgrounds for the sinister feelings that curled at the edges of my awareness. For the first time, the crowd felt different charged, like a gathering storm, and I could sense an underlying current pulsing through the ground beneath my feet. Get away from her, Mia warned, now stepping protectively in front of me. I could feel the heat of her loyalty, but it slowly turned to resolve as her voice cracked. We don't need your problems in our lives. In that tense standoff, I noticed figures slinking away from the bustling fair, eyes narrowing in our direction. Panic surged again, my heart pounding against my ribcage like a caged bird desperate to escape. I could feel Mia's fear thickening the air around us, and I suddenly understood the reality of how quickly we could fall into darkness again. I am not asking for your belief, I'm begging for your trust. He tried again, desperation painting his voice. Mia. Claire. A voice suddenly surged above the crowd, slicing through the tension. I turned to see my younger brother, Ethan, weaving through the throng, concern etched into his youthful features. Mom's looking for you. We need to go. At his approach, the boy's expression morphed into something unreadable, but I sensed a change in the atmosphere, a shift in the realm of possibilities. The urgency in his eyes deepened, and he leaned closer, lowering his voice to an urgent whisper. We don't have much time. Meet me after the fair. There's so much more you need to understand. Before I could react, the moment was disrupted as Ethan grasped my hand firmly. Come on, Claire. We need to get back. As I was tugged away from the boy, I glanced back, caught between a world of vivid art and the inexplicable shadows that lurked deeper in my life. The fair continued around us, unaware of the whirlwind of confusion unfolding just beyond its joyful facade. My heart sank with an unshakable fear as I realized only then how torn I was between two worlds, one filled with love and laughter, and another that promised chaos ahead. And as we made our way back, my dark secrets felt heavier than ever. What awaited me on the other side of this terrifying revelation? An avalanche of unknowing plummeted down as I processed the words echoing in my mind, meet me. How could I choose when my fate hung dangerously in the balance? The question echoed ominously with each step I took, leaving me teetering on the edge of discovery and dread. Hope flickered like a distant star in the endless black of night, but the brightness it promised felt too far to reach. As we moved away from the bustle of the fair, Ethan's voice filled my head with mundane requests, the urgency he'd radiated moments earlier tucked away with every step further from the boy and the truth. Are you okay, Claire? Ethan's eyes were wide with concern as he searched my face for reassurance, unaware of the silent storm swirling within. I am fine, I replied, forcing a smile that felt like a lie. But even as I spoke, the boy's words haunted me, they're coming for you. The emotion I fought to suppress churned violently in my chest, threatening to resurface in front of my brother. We walked swiftly through the fairgrounds, where laughter and music echoed around us, but the sound felt muffled, as though the world itself was blurring at the edges. Mia followed closely, glancing over her shoulder, her protective stance keeping the weight of my anguish at bay, but I could feel cracks forming in that facade. I knew I had to confide in her, to share the haunting fear etched in my mind. Yet, how could I explain it? How could I unveil the labyrinthine secrets of my existence, the darkness lurking beneath the tangible brightness of everyday life? Each question only led me deeper into my own sense of chaos. As we reached the exit, a gentle hand on my arm broke my reverie. A woman stood before us, her warm, kind eyes filled with concern. She was dressed in vibrant colors, adorned with intricate jewelry, a stark contrast to the desolation I felt inside. Excuse me, dear, she said softly, but it seems like you could use a moment of kindness. I blinked, unprepared for the sincerity of her approach. We're fine, I muttered, glancing at Mia, who nodded, but something about the woman drew me in. Sometimes we don't know we need hope until a stranger shows us, she continued, her voice wrapping around me like a gentle embrace. I've been in dark places myself, and it can feel lonely and endless, but it's those small points of light, a stranger's smile, or a shared moment that can spark something beautiful. Ethan had taken a step back, his eyes widening as he listened. Unable to formulate a response, I found myself drawn to the woman's presence, her words igniting a flicker of warmth amid the cold uncertainty. Thank you, I managed, though I felt that gratefulness extend deeper than mere words could convey. She smiled, showing the weathered lines of a life well lived, and her gaze drifted to the horizon. Remember, dear, even in the darkest nights, the stars are still shining. You just have to be willing to look up. Before I could respond, she turned to leave, and I felt an unexpected ache in my chest, the yearning for connection, a fleeting hope. The heaviness of my fears lingered, but somehow it felt lighter, as though just for that moment, the shadows were held at bay. As we stepped into the waning light of evening, the residual warmth of her words lingered, wrapping around me like an invisible cloak of kindness. Let's just go home, Mia murmured wearily, the promise of safety tugging at her deeply ingrained instincts, but home felt increasingly distant. The weight of what lay ahead settled uncomfortably across my shoulders, a burden of fear now compounded by uncertainty. What did the boy mean by needing to protect me? And who were they? The ache of unanswered questions thudded heavily against my heart. Once inside the car, I watched the streets transform as we drove away from the fairground's shimmering lights, sadness creeping in to fill the crevices of my spirit. The air grew thicker with unsaid thoughts, and I felt the urge to push back against the quiet like a buoy struggling against high tides. Mia, I started, but faltered, caught in the web of my own hesitation. Tell me, she urged, her eyes locked onto mine, stealing away the layers of worry binding my tongue. What happened back there? The truth both begged to be set free and terrified me. There was someone. He said I have gifts, powers. It felt absurd, and my heart quickened at the prospect of speaking such nonsensical beliefs aloud. Powers? Mia echoed, skepticism forming a thin veil over her concern. What do you mean? I don't know, I admitted, gripping the edge of the seat as if it could anchor me in reality. He said I was being targeted. That they want something from me. My voice trembled as the images of the chaos I had felt returned, flooding my senses anew. Mia leaned closer, her expression shifting from disbelief to worry. You can't let this get in your head. It's probably just some prank, or maybe it's not, I interrupted sharply, discovering unexpected resolve. You didn't see the way he looked at me. There's something real in what he said, I felt it. I can't just pretend it didn't happen. A low silence enveloped us momentarily as she absorbed my words, her loyalty battling with disbelief. Okay, she finally said, uncertainty woven through her voice. But we need a plan. We can't just meet him. We have to be smart about this. A plan. The very idea felt as distant as the stars the woman had spoken of, a faint glimmer in the dark void surrounding me. As we neared home, anticipation mingled with fear in my stomach. What was I willing to risk to uncover the truth? And as if summoned by my apprehension, a sudden shout pierced through my thoughts. Ethan's voice rang out, cutting straight through the veil of unease. Claire. Look. Following his gaze out the window, my breath caught in my throat. Just outside our neighborhood, shadows shifted, figures coalescing in the twilight, their shapes obscured but undeniably ominous. They stood together, watching, waiting. Panic seized my heart, and as Ethan pressed against the glass, eyes wide with youthful confusion, I felt an inescapable connection form. The boy had been right, I was being hunted. And the price of my ignorance might be far greater than I had ever realized. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but I could no longer stand idly by. The unknown awaited me beneath the surface, and somehow, I had to navigate between light and darkness before the shadows claimed more than just my peace. The figures outside loomed larger in my vision, their presence unsettling and visceral. I felt the air grow thick, stifling, as if the very atmosphere conspired against me. Mia's hand gripped mine tightly, the warmth of her touch a grounding force that momentarily eased my rising dread. We were no longer just three siblings cruising home after a fair, we were entangled in something dangerously unfamiliar, a web spun from secrets, fears, and foreboding shadows. Should we call the police? Ethan asked, his voice laced with panic, glancing nervously between Mia and me. No, I said firmly, though uncertainty gnawed at my insides. There was a pull within me as I felt an inexplicable connection to the figures standing sentinel at the edge of my world. In their silence, they presented a challenging echo of the boy's warning, and somehow I knew that if I didn't confront it, I would remain trapped in this city of unease forever. "Stay in the car," Mia instructed, her voice steady as she turned towards the rearview mirror, her gaze flicking back and forth like a hawk surveying its surroundings. She was putting herself on the line, fully aware of the danger, her instinct roaring against our call to retreat. "What are you going to do?" I asked, fear undermining my steadiness. "That I don't know yet," she admitted, her brow furrowing in thought. "But you know I can't just leave us here unprotected." If there's even a chance that he was right. Trailing off, she drew in a breath, steeling herself. "We have to figure out what we're dealing with." The figures outside stirred slightly, and my heart raced as their attention shifted. It felt as though their gazes pierced through the glass, straight to the trembling core of what remained unsaid between us. Somewhere deep inside, a voice urged me to ignore the facade of safety, to look beyond the moment and embrace the truth that was inching its way into the light. Mia opened the car door, a firm resolve carrying her steps as she approached the shadows. I could see Ethan's pulse quicken beside me, his body coiled tight like a spring, and I grasped his hand. "Stay close," I whispered, fighting the sense of dread that threatened to engulf me. "It'll be right here," came his reply, more an affirmation of resolve than a promise. As we watched, Mia faced the figures, her chin lifted high, eyes defiant. A primal scream welled in my chest to call her back, an instinctive warning against the unknown horror. "What do you want?" she called out, her voice firmer than I felt inside. The shadows shifted, rippling like smoke, and then one stepped forward. Heightened by the darkness, he emanated a palpable energy that pulsated in waves, unsettling yet magnetic. I could hardly breathe as I held Ethan's hand tighter, a lifeline tethered to whatever flicker of hope remained within me. "We wish to speak to Claire," he declared, his voice smooth and hypnotic, yet underpinning a threat that sent chills racing down my spine. "It is imperative." "Why?" Mia shot back, her protective stance unwavering. "Why would you want her?" I held my breath, the noise of my pulse deafening in my ears. "Because she holds the key," the figure replied, and the words resonated within me like an unsteady bell tolling upon my arrival to an uncertain truth. "There are forces beyond your understanding. She is a bridge between worlds, and they are aware." The pieces began to intertwine in my mind, a jigsaw puzzle assembling in whispers. Gifts, powers, they were not mere fantasies after all, but a reality that threatened to consume me. "I don't know what you're talking about," I finally found my voice, unwilling to surrender to the enveloping dread. "I'm just a girl." The figure stepped closer, and I saw the glint of something in his eyes. Was it sadness? Regret? "You are far more than that. You have the potential to change everything. The time is drawing near. Your very existence is in peril, and we need your help to protect you from those who would see you lost." Mia scoffed, but I felt an odd stirring within me as if the brute force of hope pulled me into unknown depths. "What do you mean?" "Lost to who?" "Those who would come for you," he replied, voice heavy with remorse. "They believe you are a threat, a danger to their very way of life. Your gifts mark you, Claire. They want to use you." Each word filled the air like an electric current. I felt the weight of reality crashing down around me as my world began to shatter and reshape itself. I knew I should fear this stranger, yet an inexplicable part of me was drawn to the very essence of his warning. "Claire," Mia called out, her voice already filled with caution, but it was too late. The veil had been torn, and the stark reality of my existence lay before me, raw and undeniable. Panic set in as I glanced at the shadows surrounding us. "Will you help us?" The question hung between us, suspended in pregnant silence, a precipice that I stood upon teetering between consent and aversion, but before I could answer, a piercing scream cut through the night from behind us, a high-pitched wail that echoed in my core, invoking a primal fear. "Ethan!" I turned, heart racing as I looked back to the car, only to find him gone. The world shifted, and the shadows around us expanded and closed in, obscuring the path ahead, all sense of safety upturned. The unknown enveloped us with a chilling embrace, and I froze, the weight of everything crashing down. The boy's warning, the figures, a tide of realization washed over me. They were not the true danger. The real peril lay in the heart of what I had yet to confront, that I stood at the brink, a choice upon me as my heart pounded. Either I would plunge into this darkness for Ethan, or it would consume us all. Without hesitation, I stepped forward into the unknown, ready to confront whatever lay waiting ahead. The shadows whispered promises yet to be fulfilled, and in that moment, I understood, I had a decision to make that would redefine the essence of my journey. The shadows thickened around us, twisting like tendrils of smoke, wrapping me in a cocoon of uncertainty and dread. Mia's eyes darted with quick flashes of fear, tracking the moving forms of the figures who loomed before us. My own gaze was drawn back to the car, panic striking me with jagged edges as Ethan's absence echoed in my heart. "Ethan!" I called out, my voice trembling and jagged. The weight of the world pressed against my chest, suffocating yet spurring me on. I searched for him, every instinct screaming to seek him out, to fix this shattered reality before me. "Claire, focus. We need to understand what they want." Mia gripped my arm fiercely, grounding me momentarily in the chaos of the unknown. Her determination rekindled a flicker of hope amidst the storm raging inside me. "Why did you take him?" My voice quivered, but I was determined to stand my ground. I met the gaze of the figure who had spoken, the unexpected intensity of his stare, a prism reflecting worlds unseen. "He is safe," he assured, but the assurance offered little comfort. "Time is of the essence. They will use the boy to draw you out. Come with us, and we can protect both him and you." I swallowed hard, the taste of fear raw on my tongue. "And if I refuse?" "Then you risk losing him," he replied, regret etched deep in his voice. "The consequences of inaction are dire. They see the potential within you, and it terrifies them. You are more than you realize, Claire." Fragments of the past tugged at me, memories of whispered conversations and fleeting glances. I thought of the mysterious boy who had warned me, of the stories that had been buried deep within the shadows of our family. An uncharted path rose before me, one fraught with danger and uncertainty, yet if it meant protecting Ethan, I had to take it. "Mia, we have to." A sudden, deafening crash interrupted my thought. The mere sound of shattering glass from the direction of our car sliced through my resolve, and I instinctively took a step back. I could feel the shadows tightening around us, an impending storm threatening to break free. "Mia, stay close," I called, my voice a raw whisper as I turned toward the source of the noise. The fear in my heart rose as I searched for Ethan again, the overwhelming urgency pushing me forward. Before I could move away from the figures, the leader extended a hand toward me. "Trust us, Claire. Stay with us, and we will ensure his safety." Mia hesitated, her eyes flickering to me, weighing our options like fragile glass. The shadows around us whispered sinister promises, echoing the depths of dread resonant in the air. It felt like a terrible dance, a tango between fear and purpose, and I was the dancer teetering on the edge. "Fine. I'll come with you," I spoke firmly, barely able to hear the words myself over the thunderous pounding of my heart. "But you have to promise Ethan is safe." The figure nodded, a flicker of relief passing over his shadowed features. "He will be. Come." The crowd of figures began to move, gliding towards the dense embrace of the trees beyond our path, each shadow melting into the other, revealing a hidden doorway just out of view until now. But in my heart, I felt the weight of the decision I made, a truth hanging perilously in the air. "Mia." I turned to her, desperate to maintain our connection as shadows cloaked around us. "We can't leave him." She hesitated, the shadow looming at the threshold of danger painted across her face. "I won't abandon Ethan. I'll go find him." "No." I rushed toward her, grabbing her wrist, urgency flooding my veins. "I can't let you go alone." In that moment, I knew that if we separated, we were slicing our bond, tossing aside any hope of finding Ethan intact. "Together, Claire," Mia said, her jaw set with determination. If we can't find him, we risk everything. Without waiting for my reply, she turned toward the figures, pivoting on the edge of trust, just as the noise of scuffling feet and shouting voices reached us from behind. Time is up. They're coming. The figure our enigmatic guide urged us onward. Every instinct screamed as we scuttled forward. Inching closer to the shadows that promised safety, yet a fear hung like a noose in my throat. Would I lock myself in only to shatter the connection that tied us together? Stay together. I murmured to Mia as we approached the veil of darkness that momentarily held the answer and our fate. Together, we stepped across the threshold, the world behind us dissolving into turmoil and shadows. The echoes of our past rang like a haunting melody, threading through the air. Yet what lay ahead remained uncharted, an uncertain tapestry waiting to be woven with choices. Just then, amidst the encroaching whispers, the figure's voice broke through my apprehension, sharp and clear. Remember, Claire, your power is bound to love and fear alike. Do not underestimate what's at stake. The gravity of his words settled into the marrow of my bones as uncertainty transformed into an aching urgency. But before I could grasp what he meant, a flash burst from within the trees, throwing light into the darkness, causing my breath to hitch. At that moment, a familiar silhouette emerged from the shadowy embrace. Ethan, fear and vulnerability etched upon his face, eyes wide as he called out, "Claire." But the shadowy figure surged forward, blocking him like a tidal wave crashing against a shoreline. What was meant to be an escape had spiraled into a tempest of chaos, and as my heart raced, I understood one harrowing truth: I was caught in the eye of the storm, out of control and separated from the one thing tethering me to sanity. Mia's grip on my hand tightened, our connection a lifeline to experience together. And as another ear-splitting crack resonated in the air, I could only hope that we were not too late to save what still mattered most. The shadows whirled chaotically around us, a living entity fueled by our fear and desperation. Ethan's terrified face, more alive than ever, felt like a beacon glowing in the darkness, but the thrumming shadows entwined us, holding us hostage to the uncertainty spiraling like a tempest. "Stay back!" I shouted, the urgency slicing through me as I pushed against the grasp of the figures who encircled Mia and me. Our captors shifted, their forms indistinct against the chaos, yet despite our struggle, they maintained a grip that felt both protective and suffocating. "Ethan!" Mia screamed, her voice a mix of panic and determination. "You have to come to us." But a figure separated from the group, not quite blocking